Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Migration Summit's final and closing session. The Migration Summit 2022 has been organized by the MIT Refugee Action Hub, Namal, Karam Foundation, Paper Airplanes, and the MIT Abdul Latif Jameel World Education Lab. This has been a month-long global convening designed to build bridges between diverse communities and displaced learners, universities, companies, nonprofits, and NGOs, philanthropists, researchers, policymakers, and governments around the key challenges and opportunities for refugee and migrant communities. The mission of this summit is to center the voice of the refugee in exploring the theme of education and workforce development and displacement through virtual events hosted by participating partners around the world. The format for this last session will include 4 themes and segments of 12 minutes each, presented by some familiar faces. The themes are in this order: owning the narrative, building ecosystems, overcoming barriers to migration, envisioning ourselves as change makers. Lai Ogansanya, my co-facilitator, will be introducing each theme and speaker. We thank you again for your support today and throughout this whole month. We hope this final session inspires you to reflect on your journey and the stories you have heard, as well as the value of a community to leverage change and movement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I have no words to describe my experience so far, and it's good to hear you give a really very brief narrative of what's happened so far. My name is Lai Ogansanya. I'm from Dayton. We are a social enterprise disrupting the international protection applicant space. So for me, this is quite special, working hands-on with refugees and protection applicants. I lead the organization as the Chief Executive Officer, and I will be opening up this open mic portion of this session. I'd say let's get right into it. Welcome, first of all, to Suhar and Amal Jabril, founders of Migration Jam. You will be the first to roll on this afternoon or this morning, wherever you are. Migration Jam is a storytelling platform aimed at empowering migrants and refugee communities worldwide to facilitate positive change through their own stories. I love this. These guys are tackling the biased mainstream narratives head on. So I will hand over now to Suhar and to Amal. You have 2 minutes. Please lead us.
Thank you. Thanks for joining, for giving us the chance to join this great summit. It has been an amazing month, and for being in this session. It's going to be quick because we have 2 minutes. I'm going to start quickly with focusing on the point of how we've all been living for the past few years, how the media is flooded with and outlets are full of stories about migration and migrants and refugees, mostly told about migrants and refugees.
Yes.
Most of these stories were presented about migrants and refugees, and very, very little of these stories were told by migrants and refugees from their narrative and their corners. Owning our narrative is very important for our life, and it affects in every different details. And we can find many different ways and methods to tell these stories. It's very important that we own our narrative and we own our stories, and we tell them from our perspective. Amal will continue.
So when we own our stories, we avoid being trapped as characters in a story that someone else is formulating. Stories and narratives, they basically have the power to shape not just the perceptions about other people, but also the way we perceive ourselves and see ourselves and how we go through this life.
And we are both calling you today from Istanbul. I am from Syria and Amal from Somalia. And for today's session, it would be great if we can take the chance to reflect with the amazing group that we have here. We have 37 participants to share some of the stories and to help you think about what to share. Think about a challenge that you have faced and how you overcome it. Think about maybe a situation that you faced a challenge and you received support or solidarity from the community, because our challenge and how we receive support and solidarity is very important. Think about a moment or something that you faced that made you change your path or change direction or take a new direction. We'll try to focus on these 3 points. And from your own perspective, from your own corner, we'll give you the floor. It's mostly today's discussion is about you sharing these stories, you owning this narrative. And I'm looking forward to hear a lot of these stories today.
Superb. I think you hit 2 minutes, 20 seconds. So that's perfect. All right. So I'm going to open it up to the floor. You had the ladies. I think we'll open up to the floor now and get your experience, and let's have some engagements. We have 9 minutes for this, so I'm going to time that like right now. All right, cool. So Blaine, hands raised. Can we engage Blaine?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, to begin with, I would firstly like to thank all the organizers, the incredible panelists, everyone here. We had a fantastic month. I'm hoping that we could, come up or create more summits going forward. So in relation to the first theme, just the owning the narrative, for most refugees, when you're trying to apply yourself, what you see is that, everybody would just mention the barriers that you have. If you try to apply to school, they would tell you no, they wouldn't accept you. If you try to apply for work, they say no, there are regulations here. So everybody just shows you the downside of being a refugee. Nobody really motivates you, to keep going forward, to apply yourself. And then, of course, being as a refugee, you would always get the, basic issues saying that, you need a constant or a reliable internet access, or you would need a space where you could actually do work or even study. So everybody just lets you down. So in a way, you just have to, motivate yourself, or try to find people who are, interested, or who simply just motivate you or challenge you to be better, just to, utilize resources that you have, and then just keep moving forward. And for me, that was MIT React. So previously, I migrated from my home country, Eritrea, moved to Sudan. While there, I tried to apply, but in a sense, you're stuck in the same level with the whole community, because when you try to apply yourself, as I mentioned, they just tell you or mention the barriers. And then again, once I moved here to Ethiopia, circumstances were a bit better for me here, because I saw that, I had access to the internet. And then when I tried applying, of course, there were programs that said, because you're located here, we can't take you on our program. So those are like location barriers that you have. So I just started listing the opportunities that I found that I couldn't apply to. And then I think once COVID happened, it kind of opened a lot of doors for a lot of people, mainly because you can do things remotely within that sense. So then I found MIT React, and through the program, you don't necessarily have to be working on the hard skills alone. You also need the soft skills. So it was a combination. It was a package. They keep telling you, just push through. What do you need? What are you into understanding? And I mean, these people were taking their time just to make sure that you were in a safe space where you could actually grow. So for me, I hope that other refugees could also just keep applying themselves and try to find those opportunities that exist. I mean, throughout the summit, we saw so many organizations. If you come from one stand of point, like if one refugee is living in one host nation, he doesn't even know those already existing opportunities that are there for him. So, and of course, I would like to ask, this wonderful organizations out there that are opening up doors, just work on spreading your information so that, everyone could get the chance and be a part of your amazing community. So thank you. All right.
Thank you so much, Blaine. Do we have anyone who would like to follow up? I see Fadi Musa's hands is raised. Can we engage Fadi, please?
Yeah, thank you. I had the chance to chat with Blaine earlier on, and if you haven't had a chance to talk to him, get to know his story. He's such an amazing and inspirational individual, and it just tells you how much inspirational stories are out there. When I heard that the first team is about change the narrative, I really thought long and hard about what's the best way to approach this. And then I looked at my own story, being born stateless, and I really thought that the most consistent, if you want, theme throughout my life about changing the narrative is basically about courage to change the narrative. Looking back, after I was born, every single noise coming towards my mother was to get rid of him, sell him, give him to a church, give him to a hospital. How are you going to raise him? You're a single mother, uneducated and poor. But my mother had the courage to stand in the face of her community and her family and change the narrative and not look at me as a liability, but look at me as an innocent child that needs his mother and needs a chance to survive. Fast forward a couple of years, I needed access to education. Every single school we went to, they rejected me. I had no papers. I was illegal. They looked at me like a liability, like a problem. But then it took a couple of nuns to look at me as an innocent child who deserves access to education. It's his right to grant education. And once again, they had the courage to stand up to their principal, to everything legal about the educational process and say, no, the right thing is to give this child education. And here I am today because of companies like Accenture and Talent Beyond Boundaries, who had the courage to look at me as someone with skills, as someone with capabilities, not as a stateless person who doesn't deserve a chance. And if a couple of nuns and if as a single uneducated mother had the courage to do that, I am definitely confident that organizations and corporates in the United States, multi-million-dollar corporates around the world, should definitely not only have the courage, but the capability and the resources to really change this narrative and give people like me a hope. And the last point I want to say is it's a 10-second point, I promise. And it's about this beautiful, amazing story. The first person to climb Mount Everest is Sir Edmund Hillary, right? And every time he shared his story, he said, without Tenzin Norgay, the Sherpa who led me to the top, I would have frozen to death, died, gotten lost, or starved to death. And I think every single stateless person or refugee stuck out there right now are trying to climb their Mount Everest, which is to find a way to restore that normal life that they lost. And I think it's our duty and it's the international community's duty to be their Tenzin Norgay and help them climb that Mount Everest.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Inspirational. Much love to your mom. So much respect. If only organizations can be as bold as your mom, I think we'll be in a better place by now. And I really relate to both your stories. I was a migrant in Ireland in the year 2000 as well. I was in one of the centers for refugees, etc. I started my career literally as a mobile phone salesman in a shop in the early 2000s. So I feel your pain. I know the journey, and I really you are in the right company and you are in the right kind of a surrounding to make cool and exciting and disruptive things happen. We will move on quickly to our talk number 2. Please let me welcome Dio Mercy Lundo, Glory Lukombo, who are founders of Vijana Twawiza. If I am correct, Vijana Twawiza is Swahili for the youth can. Thank you, Suha. Thank you, Amal. Thank you, Blaine. Thank you, Fadi. Now, Dio and Glory will give the floor to you for your 2 minutes impact speech.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be again part of the MIT Summit today. I'm Glory Lukambo, and here close to me, Andrew Kat, a friend and refugee from South Sudan. I'm myself refugee from the DRC, Congo, and Lundo is as well on the call, who's as well a refugee from Congo. So we are currently living in Kakuma refugee camp here in Kenya, and we have been refugees for quite long now. And I'm actually puzzled to hear one of the speakers today speaking about refugees being seen as a burden. Obviously, I believe that refugees are truly a burden only to a community or a society that create a system where refugees have to be always on the other end, where they have to receive aid, they have to be told what to do, they have to be encamped and kept in a place, and that's a society that creates that's mentality that refugees are burdens. But I think if we demolish this system, if we create or if we recreate a system where refugees can easily access education, refugees can easily access information, refugees can be trusted and protected and given full rights as any other person in that country, I think refugees can actually do amazing things. It was a pleasure at the beginning of this month to be part of the MIT Summit, where Dieu merci, Lund and I talked about our initiative, Vijana Twaweza Youth Weekend. This is a group of so many refugees here in Kakuma refugee camp, youths obviously coming together to address hunger issues, where we managed to create a very sustainable system to rear fish ponds. You can see just behind us here. We actually see our bigger fish pond here in Kakuma refugee camp. And we have connected these fish ponds to a crops garden close by, and we have managed to rear cricket, to plant fruits, and all these things we managed to create an interconnection that creates sustainability, where we use very efficiently our resources, including water, which is a very scarce resource in the camp, and many other resources. And this system has been sustainable. It is prone to be very efficient at addressing food challenges, and we have learned to take these to other people in the camp. We have learned to teach children in primary schools on how to create sustainable agriculture things. So this is possible if refugees get enough access to education. And for us, it has been possible because our members got to study at the University of Geneva in zone programs, at Southern New Hampshire University under the GEM programs, at Regis University under Jesuit World Learning. And I see Nadia on the call. I'm just pleased to see them, Nadia and Paul, both of them here, Paul O'Keefe and Nadia Asmal. So this happened because refugees received education, refugees received knowledge. So I think if we create such a system, we are going to be much sustainable, and we're going to create a better society where refugees are not going to be seen as burdens. So I would actually call upon the people in this call to find a way on how can we actually work together to create this society where refugees can be protected and receive enough education. Yeah, thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Glory. Well said. A very good example in how you build a good example, a good ecosystem, and scale it and share it. Fantastic. I will now open up the floor to our audience to engage Glory, and let's have a conversation around this. Do I spot anybody's hands for now? Yeah, we do. We have Eileen. Can we engage Eileen, please?
Thank you so much, Lai. This has been a wonderful experience for me in terms of networking and coming out of our silos, where each of us, either as individuals or individual organizations, are working alone and not realizing that there are just so many ways that we can interconnect and be much more powerful and empower so many more. And so, you know, I'd love to continue this conversation past this 1 month summit, which has been so amazing for me. I had so many aha moments in terms of finding out about organizations that are working in the space that I didn't ever know about, and being able to connect them with the refugee leaders that I work with in and support in Kakuma. And so sharing resources, which everybody is so willing to do in this space, because we're all people who are involved in service to humanity, service to people who are just need that push, need that feeling of hope. And so my question is, you know, how can we use this summit as a catalyst for further conversations and increase the power of networking and increase the power of networks? How can we come out of our silos and find each other globally? We're so able to do so many things virtually, but it's only in these times, it seems, that we make these connections. And I know there are a number of organizations trying to do it, but it would be great if we found a way to do it faster and more efficiently.
All right, cool, fantastic. Thank you, Irene. Anyone want to follow up that comment? Anyone bold enough to follow up that comment?
I think that was a fantastic comment. It made me think about, there are so many wonderful things about the summit, and I was trying to think of like why it feels so different. There are many reasons. I think one of them though is that it's just entirely non-hierarchical. Like there are forums where folks from our organizations get together, but it's often just the director and then maybe the next level down. So I think having an opportunity where anyone at any of these organizations, beneficiaries, like included, will have a chance to discuss like this. It would be amazing if we could all make a Facebook group or like have some other forum to stay connected after. Or I know that you guys have sorted that, but yeah, I love that it's been just such a diverse group of people getting together.
Incredible comments. And I think that should bring us straight on to our next inspiration talk, which of course will be you, Nadia Asmal. I can confirm that she is a dedicated disruptor of the norms in terms of education and refugee empowerment. And I think, you know, your statements there really speaks to that. So yeah, I will open up the floor. You've got 2 minutes to engage us and we'll open it up to the floor again.
Thanks so much. I should have kept my comment because I knew I was going next. But thanks so much. And thanks so much to all of the organizers of these past 4 weeks. They've been incredibly thought-provoking and inspirational. And I know you all must be very exhausted. So thanks for allowing this forum for all of us. As Lai said, my name is Nadia Asmal, and I focused most of my work on higher education and access to employment for refugees in Southern Africa and the Middle East. And that entailed both preparing refugees for internships and employment, and also advocating with local governments and institutions for increased right to work, both digitally and locally, for refugee populations. And as I was reflecting on the theme of my mini segment, so overcoming barriers, I thought about how I always considered my work in this sector like a bit of a mission impossible. How do you get refugees to work when they aren't allowed to work? And it felt very daunting, and sometimes it felt very alone. And it seemed like 90% of my work in this sector was working against policies and processes and trying to constantly overcome really archaic barriers to refugees' success. But this summit really reminded me of the way forward, and 2 things in particular that I was reflecting on in terms of overcoming barriers. The summer reminded me that 1, we need to be creative within the systems that exist, and we need to advocate to create new systems. So I heard a saying recently that you have to play by the rules until you can write your own. And I think it really applies to our sector of work. Like, yes, we need to find creative ways for refugees to still succeed within the existing infrastructures. And we need to simultaneously advocate to change those infrastructures for the future. So, for example, while we're working to get refugees digital jobs because they don't have the right to work locally, let's also be advocating with the government to ease right to work restrictions. So number 1 is creativity and advocacy. And then number 2, and I think this goes back to Eileen's comment, is just that there is a huge network of individuals and organizations working on these issues. And sometimes, for some reason, this work can feel a little lonely, or like you're the only one doing it in that country, or with that particular student population. But the summit really reminded me that it doesn't have to be that way. And we need to stay connected, and we need to continue to share openly and collaborate. And I think that if we do that, it won't feel so much like Mission Impossible. So really looking forward to hearing comments and thoughts on how you're going back to your work and trying to bring new creative ways or advocacy, and trying to integrate some advocacy into your work. And yeah, thanks so much. I pass it back to you.
Excellent. So yeah, incredible comments as always. We'll open it up to the floor because I do think this is a major one, overcoming barriers to migration. I mean, we could talk about this all day. So I'll get some hands. I can see we have Elza. Can we engage Elza, please?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I sort of wanted to bring out two main themes with regard to overcoming barriers. I think the first main theme that we heard in the summit was using digital methods to sort of overcome barriers that refugees might face in, say, securing jobs. So for example, I think in the beginning of the session, we already heard how, if refugees engage in remote work, then more opportunities open up for them. And in the summit, we heard about also increasing access to education through digital means. For example, we heard from the University of the People, which is a digital education system. And the second aspect I wanted to bring up is the aspect of co-creation. So I think it's not only important to think about what are the barriers and how we can sort of overcome them, but the mode that we use to overcome them. So we heard about how when overcoming barriers, we can work together with refugees or work in a way that the refugees take the lead on creating solutions for their own problems and for overcoming their own barriers. And I think it's important to ask, how we can envision co-creation for maximum impact. And we can also think about, whether the digital path is the best path forward, because we also heard from many people working in the field and sort of, for example, working in the Kakuma camp in Kenya. So those are my comments.
Engaging and a good question. I will move to Ola. Can we engage Ola, please?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for organizing the whole summit and the session, for sharing final thoughts and reflections. I have so many things passing in my head. I'm myself an exile professor. So I'm a migrant, but forced migrant. And I live in Switzerland. I was supposed to be privileged because I have my degrees from France and I speak the languages and all that. But it turns out that, it doesn't help to be Syrian in Switzerland. So even if I have the degrees, I was not really, the doors were not open for me. So I continue to try to open doors. And it's true that the digital or the remote working was the solution for me. And it is, every situation and every example is different, but it turns out that we will never have the same pathways and the same journeys everywhere. So it's up to the migrants to find a way to adapt, and maybe also to accept that let's say the past will never be back. Let's say I've been a professor in the university, and then in one day everything was stopped. So this is something that we need also to tell people, that expecting to have exactly the same thing as others who are not migrants, it might be a dream, but adapting and finding new solutions will be more accessible than this dream. I want to jump to another point, is about the participation that Elsa, I'm working with teachers from different countries, and I also used to work with refugee students before, and it turns out that participation and empowerment and trust and confidence into the beneficiaries, whether they are students or teachers or people looking for a job, involving them in designing their solution, I think will give the most effective solutions. And I can tell you that, I dropped a job because my boss was not able to understand that participation is a key for involvement and motivation. Amazing. So I stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ola. Great to hear you talk about a realistic expectation and managing that as well. And of course, the idea of participation is so important. You dropped a job for it. I mean, well, we salute you. Justin, I see your hands raised. Can we engage Justin, please?
Yes, thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank the Migration Summit organizer and everyone who has been able to join. It has been really fantastic and we've learned a lot for this summit. So I'd like to comment a bit by sharing my story, short story as a refugee. Yeah, I'm a refugee living in Uganda. So I came in Uganda in 2012 as a refugee. And after just 6 months, I was able to get a job. But unfortunately, I faced a lot of challenges because I was a refugee in terms of work permit, payment, and other legal documents. So I was forced to work as a volunteer because of this document, yet I was occupying a really good job at some organization. So this is to show like to overcome maybe these barriers to refugees. I think organizations should collaborate again with government agencies. Let me say like international organization with local organization should collaborate how to make everything possible for refugees in terms of payment, especially if refugees can work remotely. Some of them don't have bank accounts, so there's no way to pay them. This is a very big challenge. As for me, I was working locally, but I faced a challenge of even being paid. I was given money under the table because there was no way to open for me bank account. So that was very terrible. So this could be fine if organization could collaborate with government organization or government agencies to help refugees feel comfortable when they are able to work. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Justin. That's those are very incredible points in terms of avoiding the black market, money under the table, etc. I hear you loud and clear. And also you mentioned something that's very important, and that's everyone seems to be touching on, which is the ease of documentation and the all aspects of HR issues and banking, if I get that right. So HR issues, banking equals avoiding the black market. And this is what all governments and all agencies should be engaging on. So this has been one big one here, and I'm sure something will come from this on the back of all of the commentary and all the feedbacks. I think we will move on now to a next lightning talk, envisioning ourselves as change makers. I would like to welcome Lina Saji-Attar, who is the founder and the CEO of Karam Foundation. Lina, the floor is yours. You have 2 minutes before we engage the audience.
Thank you so much, and thank you, everybody. I wanted to first thank everybody who organized and worked on this summit, because it's been extremely powerful to be part of this over the last month, and I know what a big effort it takes to put something like this together. And it's been very inspiring, and I really look forward to watching the videos from the sessions that I couldn't make, but the connections with a lot of people here have been really powerful. It's really hard to talk about everyone is a change maker to a room that everyone is already a change maker and you're engaging with change makers. So and a lot of people already mentioned very important points of collaboration and co-design and working together. And I look forward to working with you through Karam Foundation and maybe through other means as well. But I just wanted to say that when I entered this work, I think a lot of us have the same kind of story, that you enter the work and you envision this world that you're going to be able to create change or be part of making change. And the vision of that feels, you're very inspired and you're pumped up, and then you start doing the thing, and you face a lot of the challenges, but you also face a lot of the successes that happen. So when Karam began with this vision a few years back of creating 10,000 leaders, from our young Syrian refugees that we support through innovative education. I thought it was going to take years. I had this beautiful vision of a ripple effect of change that would take years to happen, working with these young people. And what actually happened is a lot of times people needed one session, people needed 1 month, people just needed the space to be safe and the space to belong and the space to create and dream. And they were off. You know, sometimes it's just this spark of you belong, you're safe, you have the tools and opportunities, and you can go forward and build. And a lot of times the work that we do is inspired by the young people we support, and they inspire us to move forward even more than what we even dreamed. And so that's where I take my inspiration from to continue to create change in the future. And it's coming from this place of radical generosity, which is what karam means. And so just before I close, I wanted to give one example from this last month, which is the month of Ramadan. And we hosted several community iftars in Turkey, in Greece, in Syria. And one of the most powerful ones happened in Reyhanli, which is the town that we have our karam house in, that's right on the border of Syria and southern Turkey. And it was a community dinner that supported both Turkish and Syrian families, but it was initiated by a Syrian organization. And we welcomed so many people from the host community. And the work that we do is really powerful because through this act of radical generosity, from our end, we're providing, you know, the funding for this, but the team on the ground and the refugees themselves, by opening up to support the community, suddenly the lines between refugee and host, who belongs, who doesn't belong, who's serving and who's being served, all of this doesn't matter anymore. We're all on one table, we're all in community, and we're all trying to make our communities stronger and better. And this happened on the ground in real life when a Syrian organization welcomed Turkish families and served them this Ramadan. So these are the kinds of moments that I believe we can make communities stronger and more vibrant, because I believe that refugees and immigrants always make communities better. And so you do need that welcoming, you do need that co-authorship, and then you do need to be able to work together and just serve each other and make everything better and create that change.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Great examples in terms of Ramadan. Looking forward to more of those exciting stories. They always happen at this time. So definitely, yeah, looking forward to more of them. I think I'll open this up to the audience. Do we have anyone willing to engage on that topic of seeing ourselves as change makers? I have Racine. Hi. Can we engage, Racine, please?
Yeah, thanks, thanks everybody, and love this summit. It's been awesome, like seeing the exact life, like the journey ahead, someone's stories, and all the works that we are doing. So, like I'm gonna give an example to this topic, like envisioning ourselves as change makers. So, like for me, it's been like almost 6 years till I became a refugee, till I was out of my country. So like I've been bouncing through two countries till now, like Sudan and Ethiopia. I'm an Eritrean original. So when I went to Sudan, like I didn't find the hero, the guy that could motivate me to grow and to continue my education. So like at that time, like I was, the people surrounding me, like they didn't have that kind of education. They don't have the motivation to go up. So I didn't continue my journey there. So when I came here to Ethiopia, like actually Bilan Alam is my brother. So he got the enough motivation, like he didn't feel like he left out from the school and the education part. So like last year he tried for the MIT React, even though he told me to try with him. So I just say like, I don't see the output or the outcome of that. Like I feel like I don't have the motivation, like I was down at that time. So when I saw him like through this a year, like 2021 up to 2022, so he was like, he accomplished the lectures, the courses, and eventually he got a job. And I could see through my eyes, like he did it, and he eventually achieved some goal in his life. So like he was a hero for me. So for the refugees, it's like that, like trying to see a hero for them, trying to see someone that climbs the ladder in front of them. instead of in a piece of paper or in a video or something like that. They want to see it, someone beside them, living with them, or a friend like that, to see him like achieve some goals. Then they will copy from that. Then